Welcome to the Dustin Sanchez TV Lawyer Marketing Show. I'm Dustin Sanchez, your lawyer marketing expert. We have a special guest here today. A lot of people join us on the show. Today we're working with Jocelyn Stewart. You may know her as the Messy Military Lawyer on TikTok. You may know her as the UCMJ-Defender from her website. I know her as a pretty awesome TikToker who's just really blown up in the last, I would say 2, maybe 3 months tops. We just wanted to bring her on and ask her, hey, how are you doing this? And is it paying off for you? So Jocelyn, if you could, welcome to the show. Please just give us a quick background on who you are, who do you help, how do you help them? Tell us about your legal career.
Sure. Dustin, thank you so much for having me on here. I think I kind of pressured you into it, but I owe you a huge thanks for getting me onto TikTok, and I will give you more of a shout out in a little bit. But awesome. So I have been doing military court-martial defense going on about 19 years now. I did almost 9 years on active duty as an Army JAG, and then I opened up a private practice more than 11 years ago. So I started off as a solo practitioner defending military worldwide, and I was traveling a lot, really a true solo, but covering kind of anything and everything. I was down and out to Korea, Japan, Germany, you name it. I was wherever service members are, I was there. I've been really fortunate over the last 6+ years to grow my team. Now we're up to 3 full-time attorneys, 5 part-time attorneys, an appellate attorney, several paralegals and staff who support us in our mission to help soldiers and service members worldwide.
Wow. So what is it? You said 3 full-time attorneys, 5 part-time attorneys, plus how many paralegals are helping you there?
So we are a team of 2. I've got a chief paralegal and another admin who fills in. Plus we've got 2 defense investigators on our team also. That help
wow.
out.
So you got a full team over there. And you mainly do criminal law defense for veterans or active duty? How does that work?
Yeah, so the majority of the practice is definitely geared toward active duty. If it's something that could jeopardize them from having to be kicked out or potentially go to jail, anything that the military is doing to them, we help out on. So that could be anything from a reprimand to a bad evaluation, all the way up to a full felony level trial known as a general court martial. Then we also have a division that's now servicing veterans, discharge upgrades, VA disability claims, essentially in the realm of military or veteran, where you go to.
Okay, great. Being a veteran myself, I'm going to go ahead and put your information on the screen just in case any of my veteran friends are watching. They'll know where to find you. We'll do that in post-production. But regarding your TikTok success is all I can call it. I remember maybe 4 months ago, I was thinking like, what would I do if I was Jocelyn? Because being a military lawyer, an ex-JAG officer, it's not as simple as, say, if you were a divorce attorney in Pittsburgh. That's an easy marketing campaign for someone like me. We're just going to rank you for Pittsburgh divorce attorney. You're in Washington. What city are you located in?
I'm in Tacoma near Joint Base Lewis McChord. So
Okay.
It's the busiest court-martial jurisdiction in the world. Plus we've got Bremerton, we've got Seattle Coast Guard. We have quite a large military community in this area. Okay.
So, and then you were saying initially you were traveling wherever the client was, because that it's a federal jurisdiction, it seems, so you're just kind of not localized. And a lot of online marketing for attorneys is localized. It's attached to a city. The same way you might market a plumber, you're not going to drive to the next state because you found a plumber on Google. So that was a challenge when I was just thinking in my head, if I practiced the kind of law Jocelyn did, federal jurisdiction, helping veterans all over the world, basically, how would I market that? And I originally was thinking like, we'll find Facebook groups full of veterans and maybe request access and talk to the admin and see if we could make a post or 2. And then I thought, I don't know, but if you don't mind making videos, like this scares a lot of people to do this for some reason, to talk to their phone camera. But wow, you have really, I also know you being an ex-Army officer, like you probably have a whole self-discipline thing going on and you're a hard charger. So I knew like you were just, if you just started making these 60-second videos, you would just run with it. And that's, I'm on your, maybe I could show this in post-production, but I'm on your TikTok screen and I can just scroll for days. You would never guess you've only been on here for a couple months because there's so much volume, so much output here. But talk to us about your TikTok. Talk to us about why you decided to go there, what it's been like, how you started.
Sure.
What's
so I definitely owe you a huge shout out. I've had people, and a good friend of mine has been trying to encourage me to get on there for a while. I really resisted because I didn't feel like it was my target market. I felt like it was going to be all young people who couldn't necessarily afford my price point, that they just weren't my market. That really was my resistance. And then I started to realize what a huge community there is of military folks, veterans who are very active on TikTok. But I have to thank you for the video that you produced. It was a Dustin Sanchez video about how to get started on TikTok. And I was on my Peloton doing like a 60-minute ride, and it was just kind of monotonous, and it just wasn't, and it was an endurance ride. And so not a lot of dynamics. I'm like, oh, this is kind of boring. And my brain kind of doesn't stop, right? I'm one of those people. So I'm like, okay, I got my phone here. So I popped on Dustin Sanchez TV and I watched your YouTube video about that initial kind of doing the market research to start on TikTok. And I'm like, I can do this. We absolutely need to do this. So trying to be a good CEO, I delegated that to my right hand, my chief paralegal, who's amazing and has so many good insights. What we found was that there's no one in the space, right? And so you do this brilliant job, especially geared toward, people who are like Pittsburgh divorce, right? Figuring out what are people already doing on TikTok that's making them successful, and creating the spreadsheet. I was like, no, Brittany, watch Dustin's video, do what Dustin says. Cause like you said, I'm a disciplined person. I'm a very much like steps oriented. Like you give me direction, I'm gonna go with it. And so she pointed out that there was maybe one or two people ever who post anything about UCMJ. And like, it's like one dude in a coat and tie, and he's boring. Okay. Like, it's just, his content is like, like poke me in the eye. Like, it's just not engaging at all. And then we had a follow-on conversation, and I'm like, Dustin, there's nobody in the space. And we kind of got excited about it because it's like, okay, there's nobody in the space, but I have a unique niche because the people who they're already self-identifying as people who would be, in need of service or just really more top of mind, right? Like I'm top of mind now. I'm getting comments. People are linking me in other military related videos. Can you help this person? Hey, reach out to Messy Military Lawyer. Like, wow. It's I mean, there's at least 25 of those a day where people are thinking about me and connecting me with a need or a want and suggesting that I'm going to be the one to help. It's been really interesting.
Yeah, they're tagging you in the comment section.
Right.
That's what I knew, because being a veteran, the algorithm identified me and they're showing me all these other veterans because they're trying to build a community. So I knew there was a ton of veterans on TikTok. Like it's a big question in the veteran community. Should we be making TikToks in uniform? Recently, they changed the way Marine females can wear braids on their head. Like they can't wear a bun. Like I see all these things just because I'm a veteran, and the algorithm knows to pull me with other veterans. And I think you just rode that wave. There's a lot of fun veteran content, like what kind of Picatinny rail do you want for your AR-15 build? Stuff like that. We probably just got censored from YouTube for saying that, but there isn't a lot of, I'm a professional who helps veterans and I'm here to help you content. And it looks like you're the head. You're at the forefront of that content. Cause I go to your channel a lot and I'm like, man, I would die for this kind of engagement, for people to be commenting and debating in my comment section. and it's just amazing, really. Tell us what your strategy is. Like, how did you get started? What was your strategy there?
Sure. So I think the first and foremost, what I realized was that the people who were producing what I consider to be interesting content, who happen to be attorneys, are not lawyering on TikTok. Like that, for me, was very fundamental. Kind of the first thing that and this was advice that you gave me, was like, be genuine, like be authentic, be you. And I think, even a precursor to that, and you and I have certainly had plenty of these kinds of conversations, is that you have to really know who you are before you start putting yourself out there, right? And so I've done years of personal work to sort of like feel comfortable in my skin, to know who I am and how I am going to project myself, because it's just who I am, right? Like I spent years trying to be perfect. And so that's kind of part of where the messy came from with Messy Military Lawyer, is just being very real. Like life's messy. And military life is, even more messy, was kind of this tagline that I started off with, and I'm the messy military lawyer. And so my first couple of videos were just sort of introducing me to the community. And I still have one that's pinned that kind of tells the story of how I settled in this area and like what my passion is. Because I think it's important to, when people do find my content, they might say, who is this lady? If they come in, later on one of the stories that I'm telling or whatever. So it was important to me to kind of have that sort of fundamental. And so I made some videos too about my love of LSU football and, just who I am, right? Single mom, 4 kids, making sure that I have a personality and I'm not just this talking head who's trying to market to people, right? Like this, this sense of like unmarketing marketing.
Yes.
Because that's when I think people have really connected with that, because I'm not some like stiff suit telling them, make sure you invoke your rights. Not that that's not important, but like anybody can do that, right? Like anybody can give the same tired advice that any criminal defense lawyer can give.
Wow, you just gave a marketing master class. Everybody will tell you, just tell your story, just tell a story even. And you're right, you didn't beat people over the head reading the Uniform Code of Military Justice back to them. A lot of your things don't have anything to do with the law even. You're just telling stories. Well, I guess, I don't know, all of them are pretty interesting, because to me, criminal law and family law are very interesting.
So I've kind of broken my content out into a few classifications. So kind of once I wanted to at least inform people about who I was and being authentically me, I kind of fell into this, a few different kinds of content. One content I call my war stories, right? So I'm, without identifying clients, I am telling what I think are interesting tidbits about litigation, cases that I've tried, my war stories. And people have really connected with it. It definitely was a learning curve. I did not know a lot about TikTok before I came on. And so I had the sense that my videos needed to be really short. And so I would get to a minute and I would cut it off. And so then I had these obnoxiously like multi-part stories that were too long. 20 parts was one of them. It was insane. It was just like way
Part
too long.
20.
Part 20. And people, but I have to like really appreciate some of the people in the community who said, your content is fascinating. Could you please do longer videos? Like, don't go over more than 5 parts. And I was, receptive, because I know who I am. And I'm somebody who is willing to learn. And so thank you, right? Like, it's such a blessing, and some people were kind of nasty. But genuinely, a lot of people who were connecting with the content wanted to see me succeed. They were enjoying it. And so I refined. So I do. Now my stories are no longer than 5 parts. And people would say, don't ever apologize for how long these videos are. Your stories like have us gripping. Like I do cliffhangers at the end of each part, like, oh, and more about that in the next part. So I have those. My war stories is part of my content, but then I also, and this is kind of where I struck gold really, I give what I call PSAs, public service announcements about something in the military arena. And the one that just went really viral, I think it's now been seen almost 1.4 million times, is about protecting somebody's privacy and just understanding like what the federal case law says about, digital fingerprints and facial recognition opening and that sort of thing, more of like a search and seizure type issue. And people connected with it, some positively, some negatively. I have engaged with more people from law enforcement than I ever would have imagined. That really, and people who are digital forensic examiners talking about how hard it is to get in. And some people tell me that I'm really stupid. I don't know what I'm talking about. Other people are like, I'm a digital forensic examiner. I've been doing this for 30 years and she's spot on. So, and then they're all fighting each other. Like you said, like the engagement is fierce, and it, like, people are just spinning off of each other. And some of it's, some of it I chime in with. Honestly, I really don't chime in very much anymore on that one, because it's just, it keeps feeding itself. Every day people are seeing it. Every day people are still commenting, liking, favoriting it, which I think is also another feather in the cap, apparently, as I'm learning.
Yeah. They favorite it. They'll save it for later. Maybe they'll make a stitch with it.
A lot of people have done that, and they're like, do this. And they're like, I'm like, wow, this is, that one is the one that really struck gold. And so I've got my war stories, I've got my PSAs, because I want to provide, unique tips. And I ask myself, and I have a running list, right? So you kind of talk about my process. I have a running note that in my phone. That way, when inspirations, hits, what story do I want to tell? What PSA do I want to give? And so I'm constantly recording my list and my checklist of the content that I'm going to make. I think I've been grown in efficiency because I will do batch shooting. I don't like to, get dressed up every day. I work from home. I don't dress up. I kind of fell off of that, but I'll shoot like 5 different stories in one sitting, and I'll go change shirts. I'll go change place where I'm going to be, because I've read enough articles to know that people also want to see me in different plot spots. Sometimes it's in my car, sometimes it's, different parts of my house.
Okay. You said, just so maybe people didn't understand about the length of your videos. When TikTok initially started, you could only film for 15 seconds. And so people would have 3 minutes of content to say, and they split it up into 15-second intervals. Then they went to 60. Now I think they're all the way up to 3 minutes. Your videos can be 3 minutes long.
Even longer, because some of mine are more than 7 minutes. Some of them are super long. So usually it's part 5, because I just have too much to cram in to the end of my story. But yeah, it's been new and different, and people every day are like, oh my gosh, I just found your content. I think it's fantastic. I also get trolls, right? I don't want to, I think that's the sort of the seedier side, where you have to really have a thick skin, because some of the comments are quite mean, to the point where I've even thought, why am I bothering with this? like it's just so rude. And at first, kind of people tell you don't block anybody because all comments are good comments. But I think I've gotten enough, of a following that I feel comfortable just blocking some of those folks. Some people are just straight up trying to be mean and nasty, and they really are taking away from. I'm all about dialogue. If you want to, don't call me names. Like I've been called some crazy names.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But like, I just don't. The people who are following me don't need to see that. They don't need to be exposed to it. So I've started that lately.
Okay, yeah. You've already given me a couple good ideas. I'm going to add to my own TikTok. One, pin an intro story to the top of your feed, just telling who you are. For someone that just shows up to your channel, they can get an intro to you. 2, telling war stories. Like everybody's got whether you're a divorce lawyer or a lawyer marketer, you can talk about interesting things that happened to you while you were working. The public service announcement, that seems to deal with relevancy and recency, like what's going on right now in my space. And then you talk about batching. Right now, for me, it's easier to just make 1 to 2, maybe 3 a day in the middle of the day as things happen. I've tried to get into batching. I just run out of things to say. Like it doesn't come to me. I should write them down and just batch it on a Saturday or something.
That's what I try to do. And so I've got a running list of like titles of stories, that I want to tell. Like I did one 8 days in Alameda. I try to come up with something that's catchy that may interest somebody just by what happened in Alameda? Why was she there for 8 days? Just trying to figure out a cool and creative way to catch people's attention. But, this is really part of a long-term strategy on the war story piece of it. Because I'm working on a book, my fourth book. The first three were really how-tos. They're really for counsel to just try to make my niche better, for military counsel, for people who are trying to do this more kind of how-to, and it's part of a series. But I'm taking a break from that one, even though I've got several sketched out, and I'm writing a book about like the most memorable cases that I've had and the most memorable clients that I've had. And I've gotten permission from them to be able to tell their stories. Obviously the stuff on TikTok is, more anonymous. It's just more, I had a case, 10 years ago where, these things happened. But I think that especially in military culture, right, Dustin, I think you can agree with this. Like when we are together, like when vets get together, when people who served, like we tell our stories, and it's like this back and forth of not like one upping, but like, oh man, that happened to me too. We just have this good natured sense of telling stories, telling how do we connect and where do we come from. And that has been very interesting to watch people who are really connecting with that because they want to chime in of, oh, I had a guy in my unit who got accused of that too. And oh my gosh, I wish he would have had you. I mean, like where people can connect in with it, and also just culturally how we are a storytelling group.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's all we did, sit on watch for 6 hours at a time. And like, you ever see any ghosts? And, like always just telling our stories to each other.
100%.
Man, okay, so let's get into, you had told me you kind of sketched out 10 suggestions for TikTok. Give me about 5 minutes. 10 suggestions. Let's hear your top 10 suggestions for starting a TikTok channel.
Right. So one of them we covered already. It was really like before you submit content, know who you are, and then be willing to share it. Right. Okay. Like I think when I watch uninteresting content, it's really because people are just stiff and don't know where to engage. And so they fall back to sort of this, I need to look great and I need to be perfect and I need to script everything. I think finding comfort with who you are and then be willing to actually put yourself out there is like, you got to do that, because otherwise people are just going to be scrolling to the next thing. Like you're not going to get views. You're not going to get engagements. So that's my number one. Number two, I think before you really embark, you need to have a plan, like a plan for what kind of content you have. Like I've got my different criteria, my different kinds, my PSAs, my war stories, but like figure out whatever in your niche is going to be good and have a plan. Like, that probably sounds really trite, but I definitely benefited, I think, from having a plan. And I'm somebody who analyzes. And so when I saw where I was getting the most engagement, I'm also, I analyze data. And so I was also seeing the time of day. And that's a little like I'm OCD, right? Let's just be honest. Like that's not something that I think everyone needs to do, but I was finding patterns with and seeing when I was getting the most engagements. Obviously the number one being weekends, right? When people are off duty, when they're, hitting up TikTok either later at night, and definitely like Friday nights. Woo, that's a huge time. And then the weekends. And also like right now it's prime time because people are all on block leave. And so I'm really trying to push my content a lot and just knowing those patterns of like where my people are, right? So a lot of planning.
That's what I just told my partner today. I said, look, man, everyone's sitting at home right now. They're on vacation and there's plenty of eyeballs, and TikTok is dying for content right now. So up your production right now. Because I doubt there's enough content for the amount of eyeballs that are just doing this right now.
All day. Right. Exactly. They're all on block leave or they're sitting if they're sitting at a desk somewhere, staff duty, that kind of a thing. They're hungry for the content. So my number 3 was really commit to posting 3 videos a day. All the articles out there say 2 to 5, just make a plan and do 3. We committed to doing that 3 a day because you also get, the benefit of TikTok valuing that you're constantly feeding it, right?
Yeah.
The algorithm loves that you're giving repeated content. I also, I already said don't lawyer on TikTok. Like I truly mean that. Like, and maybe get them to want you to lawyer, right? So people are like, how can I get in touch with you? I've got an old case. How can my cousin find you? Like, make them ask for it or make them ask you questions, right? That was another thing, and I think in our lawyer brains, we have this like desire to answer everything that we could, like in the content. One of the best pieces of advice from people that I got in the comments were, you don't have to answer every possible question in your content. Let us ask you. I'm like, that's gold. And this is just people who I don't know, but who want to see me succeed. People who are enjoying the content, who want to keep it rolling. And they're just giving me these nuggets of absolute gold. And so I'm mining that for sure.
Okay. Those are 4 good ones. What's number 5 here?
Number 5. Yeah. Number 5 is that one. It's the leave room for questions, right? Don't be
leave room for questions. You need engagement. Yep. Good.
Exactly. Number 6 is hashtags matter. Okay. Figure out which hashtags are engaging. I always, in every video that I do some form of FYP for you page, right? That one is standard. It's stock in every single one of my videos. But I've also created, and I started from day one, my own unique hashtag. My own unique hashtag of hashtag UCMJ Defender has now been viewed over 1.6 million times.
Wow. That's impressive.
So hashtags matter, right? Okay. I also figured out that because I'm telling my stories, the other one that I'll just give you as a tidbit, true crime, right? Everyone's obsessed with true crime.
Yes.
There's an entire true crime talk, right? That's its own hashtag. And people who like true crime love to hear from a defense attorney's inside stories about these trials. So I've gotten a lot of engagement there.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So 7 is timing of the posts matters. I know I kind of touched on that, but try to figure out, don't just do them one after the other. TikTok's algorithm likes it better if you're spinning it over time. So if you have your 3 videos, and TikTok even has a way, I didn't even know this before, but there's a way where you can get everything in a draft form. And so when you have time to because I do all of my, I make sure that my words are spelled correctly, your, and your, it drives me crazy if they're not, that kind of stuff for the voice recognition, but you can have them all drafted. And then I set an alarm. I'm super just oriented in that way. And I'll be like, oh, it's time to drop one. And then I'll just get in, log it in and convert it from a draft into a post. And it's just already there. Because that way it's not sucking your time all day, and you're giving TikTok, feeding the algorithm the way it likes to be fed.
Yeah, I like how you're finding ways to be more efficient or save time. I just imagine you creating 20, maybe on a weekend or something, saving them. You can hit the little folder and it saves as draft, and you can even write up the whole caption, everything. And then all you gotta do is hit publish when your alarm goes off, however many times a day. So that's a good tip too. I'm going to implement that.
Number 8 is engage with those who comment, especially early on, right? And I do less of it now. But I'm answering the questions, and I'm also not just answering everything when I comment, right? So if they ask a question, I'll give them something, but then typically they're also like, well, tell me more, right? There's a follow-up. And so really just sort of being actually engaging with the people, caring enough, showing that caring, that you are reading it, that you're answering their questions. One of the things that I've done is that I have let people know that I'm going to be doing a live, right? So once you hit, 1,000 followers, you can go live. That's TikTok has these tiers of success, and they give you more bells and whistles as you're developing your community. And so I am letting people know I'm going to be going live. I'm going to announce when it is. And I'm like, what do you want to know? And so people are hitting me up with all kind of comments about what they want to know about the Messy Military Lawyer. And so then I'll, advertise it far enough in advance and have people to be, and I'm managing it. My oldest, who's like a TikTok aficionado, he turns 15 today. So happy birthday to my baby. But
happy birthday.
He's going to be managing the comment, like the questions that come in. Because I've seen people do that. I've kind of studied people doing lives that are successful at it. And that way, as the questions are down, he's, also going to be adding those to whatever it is that I'm going to be answering so that I have things to be able to say.
Perfect.
But definitely engage with them and show that you care enough that you're, responding. Some people put crazy comments, and I think they're just trying to see if you're reading them. So it's something as simple as responding and doing 2 emojis with eyes popping out. That's a comment that feeds the algorithm. It took me a millisecond, right, to do that.
Right.
And it's really cool because when you look on TikTok and it shows you like where your engagements are, you can dilute it to just show just comments so that you can just respond to the comments, because, otherwise you're just looking through all this, I've got likes and favorited and whatever, but your engagements are really, and what's going to keep feeding it are those comments. So you can refine it, see what the comments are, and just be responding, and it just takes a couple of minutes. So.
Yeah. I think what people need to understand as they're listening to you, because you sound like an expert right now. You've only been doing this for how long? How long
10th.
ago?
Yeah. So just October 10th was when I launched my first one.
Okay. So today is December 20th. Your first TikTok was October 10th. And in that time, you've learned some, like I'm looking at one right now. It says 406,000 views on it. Only take your ID card with you to military law enforcement. That's a PSA that you made. 406,000 views. And some of your comments, you don't just type, but you've made video comment response, and it puts the comment right by your face. Like you're doing advanced stuff in just over 3 months, 10 days past 2 months, from October 10th to December 20th. It's amazing how far you've come in such a short amount of time.
Well, it's amazing how much information's out there, right? Like I didn't know, and TikTok's honestly, it updates all the time. And so, and actually my number 9 was response videos can be very powerful, but don't overuse them. So like if it's I have gotten questions that I thought, this would have been a video that a lawyer would make, but I got asked the question, right? The question was, I didn't know that, that civilian people could represent military. I'm like, yes. That's a gold question for me, because a lot of people don't know. And that's part of the barriers to people hiring me, is they don't even know they have that right. Maybe Aunt Sally knows that her, nephew who's in the Marine Corps just got into some trouble, but he thinks he's stuck with just, the military lawyer that gets appointed to him. And now Aunt Sally is scrolling on For You page, For You, and sees me, and she's like, oh, I didn't know this, right? And so I was able to do a response video that said, here are your rights to counsel. And then I got another one that just teed it up even better. And they're like, well, what is, are all civilians kind of the same? Do you guys have some type of unique bar or certification to be able to do what you do? And I was able to do another very powerful response video to say, no, it's not regulated. You could be just some hack out the back gate who does DUIs and says, oh, I'll take this price and, ruin somebody's life because I don't know court martial law. And so that's feeding it. And so really kind of picking and choosing where you're doing those response videos, I think are huge. I'm very selective when I do them, but I think they can be very powerful.
Okay.
And then my number 10, when a video strikes the chord, keep the music going, right? So the one that hit big for me was the one about privacy, right? And I have engaged with more people on that topic, and I have a series of more privacy tips about how to, how to demonstrate privacy, because everyone from people who are within the military to people just who have very strong opinions about how much our phones are recording us and how much information that we're leaking into the world and how it's being marketed to us. People are very, very engaged with that topic, and their viewpoints span the whole horizon. And so, don't be afraid to keep engaging with a theme, even though it's not your target market. Does that make sense? Like,
Yes.
people who care about privacy aren't necessarily going to need to hire me. Maybe they will. Like, again, maybe it's Aunt Sally who figures out that her, Marine Corps nephew needs some help. But I am becoming top of mind because I'm the only one engaging with people in the space.
Yeah, good point. Okay, let me ask you this. This is a tough question. So you're getting all of these views, likes, shares, comments, exposure. Is this turning into revenue, dollars for your firm?
Yeah, it actually is. So one of the ways that I've tweaked to be able to test it, right? Because as marketers, we do all these things and we're like, okay, I'm doing all these different, anytime you have a scientific experiment, if you have multiple variables, it's kind of hard to figure out what's the one that's working. So the place where I send people, because people ask a lot, hey, can I schedule a consultation? Hey, how do I get, because they want to message me. I've turned off my messages. I'm trying to be very candid that I don't want non-official communications about their private information, right? So I've drawn that boundary. I don't let anybody message me, but I've got my website for where people can schedule a consultation. Through that, the system that I use is one of the questions that's mandatory before they can schedule is, where did you hear about us? And number one, where I put, the drop down for where they get to choose, I've put TikTok, and in parentheses, I put at Messy Military Lawyer. So I'm doing that for two reasons. Number one, I want to know if people are finding me from there. But now I'm also, for anybody who comes to my site to schedule, they're like, oh, she's on TikTok. So I'm having them circle back and giving them, it's like free advertising when they're just signing up for a consultation because maybe they didn't know I was there. Now they're going to go find me. But so since I launched on October 10th, we have had 37% of our new consultations are saying they found me on TikTok.
Wow. Again, today is December 20th. Your first TikTok video that you ever published was October 10th. And now it's 37% of your leads. I guess you could call those leads.
But it's also helping Google, right? Because those people are going to my website, they're looking around, they're reading the blog posts, they're reading my content there. And so that's also making Google's algorithm super happy because even though they found me from TikTok, now I've gotten them to my site and now the machine is just feeding. And our number of people who are also finding on Google has shot up. And that's part of what, the reason that I've done all of this is because I have an appreciation for kind of how they, how they all work together and continue to help you grow.
Okay. I really wanted to, I don't know. I wanted to ask you that question because so many attorneys, when I tell them just start making videos, they have trouble making this leap. How is me talking to my phone on the internet going to turn into money for the firm? And it just, I guess people don't understand the brand building aspect of it and how that feeds into building a brand, feeds into SEO, feeds into everything you do. It probably makes your sales process easier. Like when people are looking for you by name, they're just going to hire you versus price checking you against every other UCMJ attorney because you're the brand in this space now.
Right. And it has, it has given us a little bit of, in fact, I just had a huddle with the guys on my team yesterday and they said, we're doing a lot of these TikTok consultations, but it's pretty clear, like some of them are just sort of like fans and they like actually want to talk to you. And so we're having a little bit of, a hiccup in terms, because I'm not going to do all the consultations because I'm not taking all types of cases right now. And so that's been an interesting, and we're still kind of working out the kinks on how to handle that. I think I'm actually going to have to bring on another full-time attorney doing that. I think I'm actually going to have to bring on another full-time attorney doing nothing but discharge upgrades, because those have been really where we are seeing soars in our numbers, because these are vets. And they're like, maybe for a long time, they weren't super happy about the way they left the service. They still feel very much, their identity is tied to it. But now they're like, oh, well, maybe I can try to upgrade, that bad experience. Now there's somebody, people tell me, I saw you on my feed and I knew it was a sign. I knew it was time for me to finally get off my took us and to file. I think I'm going to have to bring on somebody full time to just handle that type of a case.
Wow. This is a fantastic problem to have. Like, you're doing so well at brand building. The problem you're having is people are calling your office and they want to work with you. That should be setting off an alarm in every attorney sitting in your office's brain. I need to get on something and start, because that's just an amazing thing. 2 months ago, you had zero presence on TikTok. Now they're calling, and when another attorney answers the phone at your office, they're requesting you instead. This is amazing. And I think every influencer runs into this, like Gary Vee. He doesn't do any marketing. He's got a team that does the marketing. He's just the front person.
Right.
Wow, that is amazing that it's working like this for you. You're a very interesting.
Like, it's given me a creative outlet, but honestly, like, what's also helped me to shape and see that this book that I'm writing about my top, 12 war stories, people are saying, like, not only do they want the book, because they're saying, hey, have you written a book? I want it. They're buying my how-to books for lawyers, and they're not even lawyers. Like, those are being sold at much higher rates, which is odd. And people are like, oh, I'm going to get one for my cousin who's a JAG. People are like buying the how-to books, but they're hungry for the story. And they also, and I never considered this, but they enjoy the way I tell the story. And they're telling me that they make sure it's an audiobook and make sure it's your voice.
Yeah.
Like, they're giving me all these marketing ideas. And so just, in the quiet of listening and watching, be receptive. I think that's another great lesson.
Okay. You sell your books on Amazon?
I do, and on my website. Some people have been ordering because they want them signed by me, which is also super weird, but that's something that's available too.
Okay. How would we find them? Do we just go to your website, or is it better to find them on Amazon?
Either way is fine. They'll probably get to you faster on Amazon.
So is that Jocelyn Stewart, the author name?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Because what's interesting now about your books, like, I'm looking at this, Shaping the Battlefield, How to Draft Motions in Military Practice.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have distribution. You have what every author craves, a distribution channel. You have 40,000+ people that you can, without spending any ad revenue, market your books to. You know what I mean? Yeah, you got quite a few here.
Some people have said the feedback has been, look, we love your stories. We love the way you tell them. I want to know the story behind the Master Military Lawyer. I want your biography. I want to know where you came from. I want to know what drives you.
Absolutely.
So that's been fun too.
Okay, let's see. So you got 3 books right now, and you're working on your 4th.
That's right.
Okay, I'll link to those as well. This is just awesome. I want to just continue to stress how you're still very new at this. So many people are intimidated by taking control of their own marketing. And of course, I think you've been doing that. Obviously, you've got 3 books. You've been marketing yourself this whole time. But a lot of times when I tell attorneys, look, you don't have to pay someone like me. You can handle your own marketing. And it just seems like otherworldly to them. Like, there's just no way. And I'm just going to point all of them to your TikTok and say, just go scroll, Jocelyn, scroll down to the very first one, is only 2 months ago, and just do what she did. You did something that I tell people. You did 2 things that I tell people, and you kind of touched on it when you were talking about frequency and 3 posts a day. I say volume and frequency. In the industry, the technical term for it is frequency of publish, FOP, where maybe you're not an expert marketer. Maybe you don't know the TikTok algorithm. Maybe you have nothing interesting to say, but you can still use frequency of publish, just volume, just put out stuff all the time and something will hit. Now, of course, when you channel it with the fact that you had something very interesting to say, it just goes like gangbusters here. But any attorney could just go to your TikTok, watch the first 4 or 5 videos and be like, I get it. I see what we need to do now.
Well, and what I think people should also understand is that just by doing this one thing, I've turned it into 4 or 5 others, right? So my PSAs are on my YouTube channel. We are transcribing them and making them video blogs on the website. We're also making them, written blogs because we're having them transcribed. I'm also releasing the PSAs as Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, and Facebook's actually paying me now. I get so many views that I'm on their influencer list or whatever. It's bizarre, and so I'm getting checks from that. But the exposure and the number of people now who are following me on Instagram, it all feeds itself. And so just by doing this one thing, you end up with all these different marketing strategies that are all working together to really help you out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, this is just it's like everything I tell people that they don't believe me, now I can just point them to this. I'm not making this up.
Well, and I owe you. I mean, I cannot thank you enough.
Well,
was that
I had no idea you were going to run with it like this. You surpassed my marketing efforts. Like now I'm looking at your channel like, what is she doing that I could do? So
and I love that.
Work
like
here.
I just want people to get out there and get into the space and stop being in these suits and like lawyering on TikTok, because that's not going to go anywhere, right? You got to figure out who you are and how you can put it out there and connect with people. And I think it's going to benefit everybody. Okay,
well, that's a good place to wrap it up. Before we go, tell us where we can find you. Where do we find the @Messy Military Lawyer?
So my website, www.ucmj-defender.com. And then, of course, we have the YouTube channel for the Law Office of Jocelyn C. Stewart, Messy Military Lawyer on TikTok, Jocelyn Stewart on Instagram. I'm kind of everywhere. Okay, and I will, of course, link to all of those either in the description. I'll flash them across the screen. Jocelyn, thank you so much for joining my lawyer marketing show today. We'll talk soon about more marketing stuff. Until then, peace out, everybody. Have a good one. Thanks, Dustin. Bye-bye.